Do you feel like you're juggling a million things on your to-do list and you're always the last one on your to-do list in terms of taking care of yourself, taking a break? That's always last, so you never get to it. Stay tuned to this video where I'm going to help you create a self-care plan that feels easy and manageable and something you can fit into your busy schedule. All right, let's jump in. For this video, you're going to need a piece of paper or something to write with, or if you actually want an interactive guide that you can follow, check out the comments below to see how you can download that below. So check out the comments below to see how you can download, or just follow along, whatever works for you. For this video, I'm going to give you different options, kind of like a menu of things that you can do in these 8 dimensions of wellness, all of them being kind of small items that you can incorporate or don't feel so overwhelming. Now, the caveat here is I'm going to go through these 8 dimensions because I mentioned in another video, these are all important for your overall well-being. But after you go through, I'm just going to have you focused on 1, 2, max 3 areas in these dimensions. And even in these dimensions, I'm only going to have you pick one thing to focus on for now, right? Because this ongoing self-care plan is something that you can revisit in a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then you can tailor and say, this is what I need in this moment in our life. This is what I've done really well. Okay, so same like last video, I'm going to pull up these different options under each dimension, give you a moment to look at them. You can pause the video if that's easier. But if we start with the emotional wellness, here are just 5 different items that you can think of. Again, these seem to be, for me, pretty small things you could do. And if any of them feel too big, you can even further reduce them to see what's workable for you. And also, you can also feel free to add anything else that you would encompass. These are just some of my suggestions. And this is the list when it comes to social wellness. Again, when you think of social wellness, think about either expanding your social support or really kind of nurturing your existing connections, or even to a certain degree, if you need to really set clear limits with connections that maybe feel really overwhelming or draining, right? So just kind of think of that whole social sphere. There's different options that you can do. Here's what it looks like when it comes to occupational wellness. Again, occupational wellness, maybe you're not working a traditional job, maybe you're a freelancer, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, but that's your job, maybe you're a student, whatever the case is, but make these applicable to like your main job, but what you spend the majority of your time and effort on. Here's some items when it comes to financial wellness, and I know this one might seem at times less traditional, and I also find might feel really overwhelming. A lot of times when I talk to clients about financial wellness, or if a client is even talking about anything related to finance, it's usually because something has gone wrong or it's generating a lot of stress. So hopefully, if this is generating stress, pick something that feels really easy and manageable, something you can really chew on, feels like, okay, I can do this like 10 out of 10. I can start doing this tomorrow. Here's the list when it comes to environmental wellness. Again, you get to also add, change, edit, anything that feels right to you. Also, I know I'm giving you the 8 dimensions of wellness, but if for some reason one of these dimensions don't feel applicable to you or are not important, either right now in your life or in general, feel free to skip it. Ultimately, the whole point of this self-care plan is to make this personalized to you and what actually works for your life. Here's what it looks like when it comes to the physical dimension. Again, this also incorporates sleep, movement, nutrition, recreational substances, or prescribed substances. So this kind of groups all of them. I know this is one that we constantly hear kind of from all different types of avenues, and the reality is that it is important. So I would encourage you to think about, maybe if you're not going to prioritize it for this first go around, see if you can prioritize it for the second go around, right? So when you self-reflect in a month or 2 months, see if like this dimension is one that you can really focus on, because of course, all of these can have an interaction in your overall well-being, but these might be more prominently noted. This is when it comes to intellectual wellness. I really enjoy this category because I love learning, soaking in new information. I recently was listening to something that was talking about novelty and the benefits of engaging in new activities, the benefit for your brain, even to a certain degree for your mood, social connection. In terms of your relationship, I've also seen that, like engaging in novel activities together. So maybe that's something that you also incorporate when it comes to intellectual wellness. Last one is spiritual wellness. Again, these are all things that you can customize depending on your spiritual beliefs or how you identify with spirituality or what you define that as. Let me know in the comments below which 2 areas you're going to start to focus on. Which 2 dimensions do you really feel like you need to start prioritizing? Let me know in the comments below. After going through these 8 dimensions, like I said, I just want you to pick 2 dimensions to start off with, right? I don't want to overwhelm you. You're already stressed out. So pick 2 that you feel like would be really helpful, important for you to prioritize. And under that dimension, just pick 1 behavior, right? So that means you're only focusing on 2 behaviors at a time. And then I want you to pick a date where you are going to check in with yourself, right? Whether that's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and maybe it's multiple check-ins, right? It might be helpful to just check in initially at a week just to see how it's going. Have you stalled out? You know, what's getting in your way? And then kind of do check-in every 2 weeks. And then seeing maybe like at a month or a month and a half, reevaluate and saying like, okay, have I incorporated this? Has this become a habit? And now can I look at incorporating or looking at either the same dimension, adding more behaviors, or focusing on a different dimension? I want you to start to think about any internal and external barriers. So we went through that a little bit in the last video, but I want you to just kind of quickly think about any barriers that come up and kind of group them into these two categories, internal or external. And then I want you to kind of lightly problem solve for them. I don't want you to spend too much time on this, but I just want you to think through, right? So if an external barrier is money, then I want you to be really clear going back to the items that you picked something that was cost effective for you, right? If an internal barrier is shame, right? You feel like, man, you shouldn't prioritize your well-being, your self-care, that's selfish. Then I want you to really think through how can you start to shift the way you're responding to those thoughts? How workable or helpful is it for you to listen to those thoughts? Things like that. So I want you to just generally have a plan on how you're going to problem solve, move through some of these barriers. And then I want you to have an action plan. So whatever these two dimensions that you're going to start working on, I want you to set a date when you're going to start doing that. So I commit to start doing that on, a week from now, which is August, I'm going to start doing this on this date, right? So if I picked, I'm going to attend a museum once a month, I want you to really pull up the museum in your local museum, the date that you're going to put that in your calendar, right? So I don't want you to just have these as abstract things. I want you to then translate these into when you're going to do them, an action plan, and add them to whatever type of calendar you use, paper calendar, your Google Calendar, whatever the case is, so then you can hold yourself accountable, or at least you have it blocked off. And as much as possible, I want you to respect that space for yourself. Obviously, understand life happens, emergencies happen, but I want you, when you see it on your calendar, to respect that's the time for me. And if something comes up and you can't do it, I want you to try to be very flexible and think, okay, I couldn't do this today because of X, Y, and Z. Can I move it for tomorrow? Or is there a shortened way I could do this? So I didn't get to the museum because my kid got sick and threw up. I couldn't leave the kid. Okay, could you have pulled up a YouTube video on this topic that you're going to see in a museum exhibit, and that would still slowly kind of tap into that? Whatever the case is, I want you to just kind of embody this flexibility, but also have an action plan that you're going to keep trying to hold yourself accountable to. I want you to take a moment, whatever this dimension is, and just a minute and visualize, imagine what it will be like for you when this habit has already been incorporated into your life. And I don't want to ignore that your life is going to keep going on and there's going to constantly be stressors or things that are going on, but I just want you to imagine what would it be like if you did have that, 30 minutes reserved for X, Y, and Z every day, every week, whatever the case, right? Whatever habit you pick to start working on. Imagine if that was incorporated into your life. What would that feel like? What would that look like? I also want you to take an attitude of curiosity, kind of excitement, experimentation. So being open to you're trying to see what's really going to work for your life. And if something didn't work for whatever reason, I just want you to self-reflect and think, why didn't that work? What got in the way? Was it really an external barrier? Was it internal? Was there just something happening in my life that I felt like I couldn't prioritize myself? And that might just be okay, this is a phase in your life. But I usually find with a lot of people that I work with is that there always seems to be something, right? There's always a crisis or always something else going on in their life that then makes it convenient for them to forget about themselves or focusing on themselves. And if that's the pattern, then I'd have to say, okay, if this is the reality of your life, then we're going to still have to find ways to work within the reality of your life. And maybe it looks different and it's nuanced, but it's still figuring out how you're going to prioritize ways to take care of yourself. I also want you to link whatever you're committing to some type of reward, right? Something that that's really tangible, that feels like, okay, so if it is, I did do, 30 minutes of exercise 3 times a week for 1 week, what's the reward you're going to give yourself, right? What would be the little token, a little carrot that would feel really rewarding for you? And that you clearly write that out. If I did X, Y, and Z, I'm going to get this. That's going to be a sense of okay, I was able to accomplish this. Over time, right, these rewards might be more internal, but at least initially it might be really helpful to build that system in where you have very tangible reward. Now that you finish this series, you have a plan that you can actually go follow. Now you understand what are the self-care blocks that are getting in your way, but more importantly, what you can start to do differently. If you like things like this with worksheets, workbooks, recommendations, tools, and tips, subscribe to my email list below because that's the best way to get the most current information on what I'm sharing, what I'm creating, and what I find really helpful that's working in my practice with people that I'm working with. And alright guys, like I always say, I encourage you to continue nurturing your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like for you. Thanks.